Just give me some space here. And inshallah tonight, I hate to disappoint the brothers in the back who usually drink tea and talk. You'll have to sit in the front side because, as I mentioned on Saturday, we're going to continue on with the Salaah series. So in EHT I had talked about the importance of Salaah, the ruling on someone who abandons the Salaah, and so on and so forth. So today I'll quickly show you the Salaah according to the authentic ahadith from start to finish, and then inshallah we'll talk about the arkan of Salah, the pillars, the wajibat, the obligations, and mustahabbat, the recommended acts of the Salah, and then also in the last 10 minutes we'll talk about sujood as-sahw and its rulings as well, and then of course we'll have the Q&A. Hassan. So inshallah, so as we mentioned, the hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, which I have repeated many times, and of course all of you have heard many times as well, that when Jibreel alayhi salam showed the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam how to pray, he made it very clear after showing the salah to the men and the women, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. Pray the way you see me praying. So this is an obligation upon all Muslims, that just like any other act of ibadah, Salah is the greatest act of worship, right? This is the number one act of worship that proves our tawheed, our belief in the one Allah, one creator, to submit to him. So the actions of the Salah, as I had mentioned on Saturday, Salah consists of two parts. The inner part, which is your khushu', this is only between you and Allah. There is no way anyone can tell how much sincere and how much fearful and how much concentration you have in Salah except for Allah, right? The second aspect of Salah is the outer aspect, meaning the movements, the postures, the adhkar, so on and so forth. So that has to be in line with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And I had given the hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari when the man walked into the masjid, prayed tahiyatul masjid, then he came to give salam to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but the Prophet rejected him. And he said, Irji', return, because you did not pray. And he did this 3 times, back and forth. And he said, this is the best I can do. Alimni, so teach me. And then the Prophet ﷺ showed again to that person, specific Sahaba, how to do the prayer. So with that, inshallah ta'ala, we will begin. So briefly, I'll show the Salah A to Z, and then inshallah we'll cover the pillars, obligations, the recommended acts of Salah, and then of course whatever questions you may have, we'll do that during Q&A. So first and foremost, we know that we obviously have to make wudu before you come for prayer, right? So those are preconditions, the preconditions of Salah. First and foremost, you make wudu, right? Then you cover yourself. Your aura has to be covered properly. For men, from the navel to the knees, and in the hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the shoulders have to be covered as well. Okay, otherwise it's makruh to come to Salah for men without the shoulders being covered. So a lot of the young people, especially in summertime when you're playing basketball, the basketball shirts don't really cover your shoulders. Of course, the shorts are long, it covers up, well beyond your knees, that's not a problem. But those shirts, you won't be able to pray in them, it's makruh, it's disliked, okay? So for men, of course, the shoulders and the navel to the knees have to be covered. This is a precondition, your aura. And for the women, her whole body is the aura from head to toe, except for the face and the hands. If she wishes, she can leave it open. If she covers herself with the face and hands, this is a highly recommended act, no problem. So the woman's aura is from the head to the toe. So like how our clothes for men, our thobe and our pants are supposed to be above the ankle. The hadith in At-Tirmidhi, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned to Salama, our mother, radiallahu anha, that for women it's the opposite. That women, their abaya or jilbab or whatever they're wearing, skirt, it has to be longer to a maximum of 1 hand span from the ankle. So if you look at it, the garment also covers the top of her feet. So this is a condition precondition. Without it, the salah is invalid for the woman. So her top of the feet have to be covered by her abaya or jilbab or whatever she's wearing. Okay? Then of course facing the qibla is another precondition. That you stand facing the qibla. And the niyyah, which I have repeated many times before, that in many parts of the world where they're saying, I'm standing, praying, 4 rak'ah for Isha, there's absolutely no hadith mentioning such a thing. This is actually a bid'ah, okay? The niyyah is an action of the heart. Just like, I'm not going to say, I'm about to open the cap of the bottle and have a sip of the water, right? Nobody does that. You feel thirsty, you already intended, you take the water and you drink. You making wudu and coming to the masjid for Salat al-Isha, you already know why you're coming. This is your niyyah, right? So the niyyah is another precondition, but this is in action, in feeling, not verbal. So after that, when we're standing for the salah, we face the qibla. The Prophet ﷺ said that when we stand in salah, everything has to face the qibla, right? So then it starts with our feet, that when we stand, we're supposed to stand shoulder width apart. Even if you're praying by yourself, your legs are in line with your shoulders. If you have broad shoulders, of course, your space will be more. If you have small shoulders, your space will be less. This is by physical attributes of different people, but the point is that the legs, your feet, have to be in parallel to your shoulders. And the toes are straight, facing the qibla at all times throughout the salah. Your whole body is facing the qibla, right? Then we come to the first pillar of salah, takbiratul ihram, the opening takbir. That you say Allahu Akbar and then you enter the salah. If you don't say this opening takbir, your whole salah is invalid. It's not accepted because this is a pillar. And I'll explain this later, inshallah, after we finish the visual part. So you say Allahu Akbar, you raise your hands, your palms are supposed to face the qibla as well. So when you raise your hand, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned you have two choices. Either you say Allahu Akbar to the level of your shoulders, or you can raise them a little bit to the level of your earlobes. So anytime you're raising throughout the salah, when you're saying Allahu Akbar, these are your two choices. Either to the level of your shoulders, or to the level of your earlobes. But your fingers are straight, flat, your palm is facing the qibla. Don't do this, right? Don't do it like this. Concentrate. This is salah. You're standing in front of Allah. Anything that you're doing in salah, don't do it in a lazy way. You're standing before your Lord, right? You want to do it sincerely and seriously as much as possible. You want to increase your level of taqwa. So when you're saying Allahu Akbar, the fingers are a little bit spaced out, not really far and wide nor completely closed, but just normal spaced out, right? And you don't have to extend, like don't go like Allahu Akbar like this. No, it's close to your body, right? Close to your body and the palm facing your finger. So then you say Allahu Akbar either to the shoulders or to the earlobes. And then, as the hadith mentioned, right hand on top of your right palm on top of your left wrist, ala sadr, on top of the chest, okay? So on the chest, and the elbows are below your hand and wrist. Here the Prophet ﷺ gave a few options. Sometimes you would just keep it like this, the palm resting on the wrist. Sometimes you would grab it. Other times he would extend up to here or also grab. So all four ways are from the sunnah, but the point is ala sadr, on your chest. This is what the hadith mentions. Now there are a hadith in Abu Dawood that about the navel. It is again a language barrier. That tahta and ala, alright, or fawqa, above, and tahta is below. But the navel, which is the hadith narrated by Ali radiallahu anhu, this is a da'if hadith. The hadith, because in Bukhari and Muslim, just for general knowledge, it's called a sahihain, the two books of sahih. Because Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim, they did not collect or put in their books any hadith except for sahih hadith. But the other Imams, At-Tirmidhi, An-Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, Abu Dawood, so on and so forth, in every chapter, they collected the authentic hadith as well as the da'if and hadith like that. For the purpose of teaching that in this subject, in this chapter related to this, this is the authentic hadith and these are the da'if hadith related to this topic. So a lot of people, they don't have this knowledge. So they'll read something. Yes, it's a hadith that says by Ali radiallahu anhu below the navel. It's in the chapter of Salaah. Yes, it's there, but it's a da'if hadith, right? So these are things that people have to educate themselves about and know how the scholars of hadith collected these ahadith. Then it becomes clear, right? So the Prophet ﷺ, he put it on his chest, his right hand on top of his left wrist, or like this, grabbing, or grabbing as well. So 4 options. Even you look at brothers and sisters who follow the Hanafi madhab, their women put their hand on their chest. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. But when the Salah was revealed, there is not a single person in the history of this ummah that can say the Prophet showed the Salah twice, one for men and one for women. Such information does not exist. So even there, it's a contradiction. Did the Prophet say for the men you have to pray like this and the women? No, there is absolutely no record of such information. He only showed the Salah once, and it was for everybody. Men and women are supposed to pray the exact same way. Men and women give zakat the exact same way. Men and women fast the exact same way. Men and women make hajj the exact same way. Right? These are basic pillars of Islam. Both genders perform them in the same way. So anyways, so after this you do the dua, you recite Fatiha, recite another surah, and then of course, again, you're saying Allahu Akbar. And throughout the salah, anytime you're changing the position, saying Allahu Akbar, it is one of the mustahab, recommended acts that you do rafa' yadayn. You raise your hands again. So as you're going to ruku', you say Allahu Akbar again raising to the level of the shoulders or to the earlobes. Here again, the Prophet ﷺ gave a few choices. You can say Allahu Akbar, do it simultaneously. You can say Allahu Akbar, then raise your hands. Right? Either together, but the point is it's from the sunnah to do rafa' yadayn. Okay? So you do Allahu Akbar, then you go down for ruku'. So when you go for ruku', the hadith mentions a few things. First, your legs are straight when you're making ruku'. Then your hands are spread open like this, and you grab your knees. The Prophet ﷺ grabbed his knees, elbows are a little bent, and your back is straight. And as the Sahaba mentioned, when the Prophet ﷺ made ruku', his back was like a 90-degree angle, to the point that you can put a cup of water on his back and it will not fall. So it was completely straight, parallel, okay? Like a 90-degree angle. So you keep your elbows a little bent, your legs are straight, and you grab your knees and you rest, your head and everything is straight. So unless you have back problems, many, even young people, they sometimes make ruku' like this. Very lazy, you're not going all the way down. Or some people, they'll be all the way down like this.
Yes.
Right? Wait for sujood. You don't have to go to the ground yet, right? So you stay like this with your elbows a little bent. And the another thing, the whole salah, you're looking at the spot of sajda. Only once I'll mention when you look your eyes in a different way. But throughout the salah, even when you're standing, you keep looking at the place of sajda. And in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, if someone is looking around here and there in salah, the punishment for such a person on Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah will pluck his eyes out. So this is a severe punishment, right? Again, you think about it. Let's say you go to meet the president, Mr. Trump. No matter how much you hate him, he's an authoritative figure, right? He's the leader of the nation, or any president, prime minister. When you're talking to the person, no one goes to the president or prime minister, he's going to look around here and there as you're, what's wrong with you? Right? Now this is Allah, the Rabbul Alameen. So definitely you humble yourself. You don't look up or this or that. You keep staring at this place of sajda. You're standing in front of your Creator. So remember that, right? So again, when you make the ruku', you're sitting, looking straight at the place of sajda. then you say, at every time you change, the minimum amount is that you stay there until all your bones come to a rest. And the Prophet ﷺ criticized. He called someone a sariq, a thief. He's stealing from Salah, that he does everything so quick. He's stealing from Salah, right? So you take your time, you go, you rest, Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim. Take your time to say it at least 3 times. And then you rest, and all your body comes to a complete rest. You say it, then you get up, you say Sami Allahu liman hamida. Again, it's from the mustahabbat, the recommended acts. You do rafa yadayn. And for this as well, you have the option. Let's say when you're saying Sami Allahu liman hamida, or you can say Sami Allahu liman hamida, and after you get up, you raise your hands. So you have 2 choices again. And then, of course, you put your hands to your side, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, the place of your hands, the original place of your hands. You rest them to the sides. Here is some ikhtilaf between the scholars of Sunnah. Some ulama, they understood that the hadith means the original place of your hands in Salah, which would be here. This is the original position in Salah. You start, you say Allahu Akbar. This is the first thing you do. However, Jamhurul Ulama, majority of the scholars, past and present, they said no, the hadith means the original position of your arms, which is naturally like this. No one walks around like this. The natural position of your arms is to hang through your sides. So this is the majority of the opinion, and this is the opinion I follow as well. This is the opinion of Shaykh Albani. But then scholars like Shaykh bin Baz, Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen, they said the original position fi salah, in the salah, means this. So this is ikhtilaf. If you put it back in your on your chest, no problem. But as I said, majority of the ulama, they said you put it back on your sides. This is the natural position. Now here, a lot of people make a mistake. Let's say they get up, they'll say Sami Allahu liman hamida, and their arms are dangling like this as they're saying Rabbana wa lakal hamd. This is wrong. Right? Don't keep your arms dangling and swinging. Right? Again, you're standing in front of Allah. So do it straight, be serious, and you're looking at the place of sajda. Right? So same thing. A lot of people also, they say Sami Allahu liman hamida, they're looking up. And remember the hadith. If you do this, the punishment for such a person, that Allah will pluck his eyes out on Yawmul Qiyamah. Right? So you keep looking at the place of sajda. That Sami Allahu liman hamida. رَبَّنَا وَلَكَ الْحَمْدُ حَمْدًا كَثِيرًا طَيِّبًا مُبَارَكًا فِيهِ. So again, let your whole body come to rest. Okay? Then you say Allahu Akbar. In this time you don't have to do Rafa Yadayn. You go, there's a couple of hadith. One hadith mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ said, when you go for sajda, do not fall down like a camel. And there's a sahih hadith collected in Ibn Khuzaymah, which says, go down with your hands first. The Prophet ﷺ would go down with his hands first, which is the opinion I follow, because this is a clear hadith. So when you're going, your hands touch the ground first. Now the hadith that says, don't fall like a camel. If you look at a camel usually puts his knees first as he's sitting down. But there's another meaning to this hadith as well. If you look at the camel when he falls, there's a lot of noise, it's like a hurricane going on, right? Building shaking. That's what you're not supposed to do. That don't collapse like a camel. That you're making so much sound and you just collapse. No. Have sabr. Be sincere. Be patient. Be smooth and take it slow, right? Through rest. So then you go down with your hands first, and you're making the sajda. Now here, the Prophet ﷺ said, when you make the sujood, your body is supposed to rest on 7 bones. Right? So I'll show the front and then the side and the back. So when you make the sajda, your hands are closed like this. And again, when you place the hands, it'll be to the level of your shoulders or to the level of your earlobes. The fingers are closed at the place of sajda, pointing to the qibla. Don't do like this or like that. Everything faces the qibla at all times. Right? So, and then your forehead, your nose, they all have to be on the ground.
So when you're making the sajda, if you're by yourself, the Prophet ﷺ, he expanded the arms, as you can see.
And the hadith mentioned, the Sahaba said,
His arms were wide apart, that we could see the whiteness of his armpits, and also a baby lamb could pass underneath.
again, you'll find, let's say, in our part of the world, they teach that women, they have to literally be like this, right? Their bellies touching the thighs. But the point is, again, the Prophet ﷺ showed the salah only once. For men and women, it's the exact same, right? So when you're making the sajda,
your hands are wide apart, closed, your arms. Now when you're praying in jama'ah, of course you can't do this, but still, you keep it like this, your elbows are lifted above the ground.
the other hadith mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ said, do not make sajda, two hadith, like chicken and a dog. The chicken is, if you see the chicken eating, it goes, like really quick. So don't just go for sujood real quick and come out. No, rest. Let all your bones come to a stop. Don't be so quick in your sajda. This is the most beloved position to Allah when a slave is in sajda. The other thing that don't make sujood like a dog, he meant, if you ever see a dog sitting and resting, his arms and everything's on the ground like this. So that's what the Prophet ﷺ said, that do not make sujood like a dog. Your elbows have to be raised above the ground. So don't keep them like this. It has to be.
When you're praying by yourself like this, if you're in jama'ah, of course people are to your right and left. You just keep it a little close, but still the elbow is above.
So you're facing the qibla, the forehead, the nose. Now, if you look at the back, your toes are bent together. Your feet are together, and they're facing the qibla. The toe is facing the qibla. Many people keep it like this. Some people are in the air. Some people do this. There's all sorts of things that people do. But your feet are together, facing the qibla. And in between the two sujood, you're supposed to rest. And when you sit, let's say you say the first sajda, then you rest. Rabbik firli, Rabbik firli. This is what you're supposed to do. You rest on your left foot. Again, the right foot, the toes are facing the qibla. This is how you rest. And you sit, your back straight, right? And when you're resting in between, the Prophet ﷺ used to keep his both hands on the thighs, right? Either the thighs or a little bit more up to the knees, but not like completely grabbing the knees or anything like that. So either the thighs or a little bit more extended where the fingers would come halfway to the knees, or so on and so forth. And then, of course, you go for the sajda again. And then he would get up. Now when you get up for the second rak'ah, after you finish your sajda, let's say you give the second sajda, you say Allahu Akbar, you're about to get up for your second rak'ah. You again rest, alright? So you say Allahu Akbar, you get up, you pause. And then the Prophet ﷺ closed his fists. He went like this, he supported himself on his fists, then he pushed himself up and would get up for the second rak'ah, or the third, or the fourth. So anytime you get up, you close your fists, support yourself, and push yourself up. So closed fist. The hadith mentions fist closed. So don't do it like this, or just get up without supporting yourself. It goes against the sunnah, right? Your prayer is valid, but you lose reward because you're leaving a sunnah act. So fist closed, you support yourself, push back, and then you get up for the second, same way, right? So then, of course, if you're praying any sunnah prayer, which is rak'ah, two units, or let's say fajr or Jum'ah, it's 2 units, you would sit. So let's say the first tashahhud for a 2 rak'ah prayer, or rak'atain, right? So again, you're resting on your left foot, your right toes are facing the qibla, your left hand is on your thigh or up to a little bit up to your knees. And then you say the tashahhud, at-tahiyatu lillah, and to the end, right? As you're doing this, this is the only time the Prophet ﷺ changed where he looks in salah. So he would either close his fist and extend the finger, or he would make a circle, all right? Make a circle with the index finger and the thumb, or he would do like this. So there's three ways of doing this. All are from the Sunnah. You can keep the hand like this, you can close, or you keep it a circle, and the finger will be facing the Qibla at all times. And then he would move it rigorously, very quickly, facing the Qibla. So a lot of times you might find people, they move it like up and down like this. This is not the right way to do it. You keep it facing the Qibla at all times and you move it rigorously. And the Prophet ﷺ said, this is more severe on Iblis than an iron rod. So when you're doing this, you're actually whipping the shaitan stronger than an iron rod. Who doesn't want to whip Iblis, right? So smack him real good. Right? So this is what this is for. This is the only time in Salah that the Prophet ﷺ would look away from the place of sajda to the place of the finger as he's moving. So he finishes the entire thing. And of course, if it's a 2 rak'ah prayer like Fajr or Jum'ah or any Sunnah prayer, of course he would make taslim. Otherwise, he would get up for the 3rd rak'ah, right? And when he got up for the 3rd rak'ah, again, supporting himself, and again, he would do Rafa' Adain for this part, for the 3rd rak'ah. Allahu Akbar, and then back. And then the same way, recite the Fatiha, go to Ruku', go to Sujood, get up the same way for the 4th rak'ah. Now for the 4th rak'ah in the sitting, he would do what is called mutawarrikan, from the back. This is the 2nd tashahhud. Any salah that has 2 tashahhud. So the 3rd rak'ah or the 4th rak'ah, like Maghrib or Isha, right? So instead of sitting like this, which is anytime you're resting between the 2 sajdas, or the 1st tashahhud, he would do mutawarrikan, which is like this. The left foot goes underneath the right shin, and the left side is on the ground now. So here, then he would lean on his right foot, right, as you can see, and then he would complete this final tashahhud, and he would be a little bit tilted to the right. Okay? So this is the way to do for the 2nd tashahhud, either the 3rd or the 4th rak'ah, either Maghrib or Isha. So from the front view, so you see the back view is like that, the front view here. So he's resting, and then of course he finishes his final tashahhud, and he's a little bit leaning towards the right because his arm is extended this way. In the 2nd tashahhud, he would sometimes grab up here like this, or he would place. Both are fine, no problem. So this is the salah from Takbiratul Ihram to the salah, to taslim. Now the salam, the Prophet ﷺ, he would look, again, take his time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Then look to the left, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Or he would say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, to the right side. And to the left side, he would say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Sometimes to the right side, he would say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. To the left side, just Assalamu alaikum. So either you say the same on both sides, or to the right side is one extra phrase, to the left is one less. And sometimes he would give salam to the right side, not looking all the way to the shoulder, but somewhere in the middle, and just say Assalamu alaikum. That's it. Right? So in salah, if you're praying in jama'ah, the moment the imam gives the first salam, your salah is already finished. If you came late, you can already get up and continue your salah. Okay? So this is the salah, the postures, and of course the video will be online all the time in the Masjid Taqwa Facebook, and this and that. So now inshallah ta'ala, we have some time still left. I'm going to mention the pillars of salah, the obligations of salah, and the recommended acts and what you should do if in case you miss them. Okay, so pillars, when we say pillars, the rukun, pillar means if you leave the pillar, your salah is invalid, right? Like for example, takbiratul ihram, right? Ruku', sujood. So these are pillars of the salah. And in salah there are total 14 arkan, 14 pillars of salah. Okay? So 14 pillars of salah, and they are of course standing during the salah. This is a pillar for your fard salawat. Unless you have a physical disability, you cannot stand, you have to sit. If you have a physical disability, you won't be able to sit, you have to pray laying down. Whatever the case, no problem. But if there is no disability, you have to pray standing. This is a pillar of salah. Okay? Then the second, if the little girls can inshallah keep it down a little bit upstairs. Then of course takbiratul ihram, as we mentioned. The very first takbir, the very first time when you're saying Allahu Akbar and entering the salah. This is a pillar. Okay? So that's number 2. Number 3, Surah Al-Fatiha is a rukun of the salah. Okay? Number 4, the ruku' is a pillar. Right? Then rising up from the ruku'. When you're saying Sami Allahu liman hamida, standing up, standing upright. This is number 5 and number 6, a 6th pillar of salah. Then the sujood, right? Number 7, in the right way, rising from the sujood. This is number 8. Then sitting between the two sujood. This is also a pillar of the salah. Being at ease, as I mentioned, in every position. It's a pillar of the salah. And then we have the final tashahhud is a pillar of the salah. So if you're praying Maghrib or Isha, the second tashahhud, the final tashahhud is a pillar, a rukun of salah. Then, of course, making taslim is a rukun of the salah. And then the final, number 14th pillar of salah is to do all these pillars in the right order. Right? No one can make sajda before ruku'. Right? So these are the 14 different pillars of salah. If you miss the pillars, your rak'ah is invalid. And your whole prayer is invalid. Like for example, if you miss takbiratul ihram, your whole salah is invalid. Right? But let's suppose in your salah, in the 3rd rak'ah or 4th rak'ah, you missed something. You forgot, I don't know, you said Sami Allahu liman hamida, you made 1 sajda instead of 2 or something like that, right? That rak'ah is invalid. Okay, the rak'ah in which you made the mistake, you forgot a pillar, that rak'ah is invalid. You complete the salah, make up that rak'ah, and you would do sujood as-sahwu to make it up. But you have to repeat that rak'ah. Okay? Because without a pillar, the rak'ah is not accepted. So you would have to get up. So let's say you are in your 4th rak'ah. You missed a sajda. Right? This is the rukun. You can't make taslim. You have to get up. Once you remember, you have to get up. So this will be like your 5th rak'ah, but this is actually your 4th because the 4th one did not count. And then you would make sujood as-sahwu before finishing your salah. Alright? So 14 arkan of salah. And then we have 8 fard, obligations of salah, or wajibat. Okay, whatever word you want to use, both are fine. Fard or wajib. 8 things are an obligation. The takbirs other than takbiratul ihram. So you have to say Allahu Akbar anytime you're switching positions. This is fard in the salah. Okay? Saying Sami Allahu liman hamida. Saying Rabbana wa lakal hamd. Saying Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, saying Subhana Rabbiyal A'la. These adhkars in the different positions, it is fard for you to say them. Alright? You have to say them. And then saying Rabbik firli between the 2 sajdas. Then the first tashahhud, this is fard. And sitting sitting for the first tashahhud. So these are the 8 obligations, 8 fard acts of the salah. If you miss a fard, you make it up with sujood as-sahwu. You don't have to repeat the rak'ah. Right? So let's suppose you're praying Isha. You're supposed to sit after 2nd rak'ah and have your first tashahhud, right? You forgot. You just stood up for your 3rd. And then you remember. You're already praying Fatiha, whatever it is. If it's really quick that you haven't even stood straight yet and you remembered, you can quickly sit down, finish the tashahhud, right? But if you completely got up, you already started Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, finish it. Before you make the taslim, you have to do sujood as-sahwu. Your rak'ah counts, but you have made a big mistake. You left out a fard action, so you have to do sujood as-sahw. So this is the difference. If you miss the pillar, you have to repeat the entire rak'ah and then do sujood as-sahw. If you miss fard action, you don't repeat the whole rak'ah, but you do sujood as-sahw to make it up. Then the third thing we have are the mustahabbat, or the sunan of the salah, the recommended acts. This is the rafa' yadayn at all times, right? Saying Ameen out loud, even following the Imam. It's also, let's say when you are praying by yourself, it has to be jahr, out loud, Fajr, Maghrib, Isha. Even if you're by yourself praying in the house, you say it out loud, because this is the characteristic of these three salawat. And then also, another thing that you have to remember, when you're standing in salah, even if you're by yourself, even if it's for dhuhr and asr, or during the third or fourth rak'ah of the other prayers, right? For Isha, sorry. Your mouth has to move. A lot of people, they just stay like this, and they're reading in their mind. This is not from the sunnah. This is not what you're supposed to do. Your tongue has to move. So even in the quiet prayers or the quiet rak'at, your mouth is moving. You know, your tongue is moving. So anytime you make dhikr of Allah, your tongue has to move. Right? This is an action of the tongue. So don't stay quiet and read in your mind. This is not the right thing to do. Okay? So then you have saying that after, let's say you say Rabbana wa lakal hamd, the Imam says Rabbana Sami Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana wa lakal hamd hamdan kathiran tayyiban mubarakan fi. You saying that to yourself, this is also from the sunan or mustahabbat of the prayer, right? So these sunnah acts, the recommended acts, if you miss them, your reward is less, but you don't have to do any sujood as-sahw or anything like that, right? So let's say to the many men and women who don't do rafa' yadayn, their prayer is valid. We don't say go make sujood as-sahw, whatever it is, because this is a sunnah act that they're missing, right? When they don't raise their hands when they're saying Sami Allahu liman hamida, so on and so forth. They're missing out on reward from the salah. That's the thing that we tell these brothers and sisters, that this is clearly an authentic hadith. You're supposed to do rafa' yadayn. This is in Bukhari. You can't, as authentic as it can get, right? So you're missing rewards in your salah. Let's say when you go sit for the exam, anyone, when you passed your school life and college life, or the kids that are here in school and college, no one goes and says, it's all right, let me just get a C and D. In your dunya life, you don't do this. So what about salah? You want to make sure that every time you pray, you come out with an A from Allah. That has to be your niyyah. That I want to get the highest mark that I can get from Allah in the salah. So in order to do that, at least the physical attributes, you want to make sure that you fulfill even the mustahabbat action, so that you get the full reward from the salah. Right? That's the whole point. That's why we're praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So all of these are from the sunnah acts that we know of, other than the 14 pillars and 8 fard actions. Every other action is from the mustahabbat. Okay? So this is how you would go about the prayer. Now, of course, coming to the last topic, and then we'll take your questions. When it comes to sujood as-sahw, you have two options or two situations. One will be when you're praying by yourself, or another situation is when you have sujood as-sahw praying behind the Imam in the masjid. If you come to so let's say we prayed Isha. Everybody started from the first rak'ah with the Imam. If the Imam made a mistake, this is also your mistake. You do sujood as-sahw with the Imam. Let's suppose you joined the salah in the third rak'ah, and the Imam made a mistake in his first or second. That's on them, not you, because you came late, right? So for you, of course, you still follow the Imam, because after the fourth rak'ah, you do the sujood as-sahw because the Imam and the other people are doing it. and then you would get up. But it doesn't mean that you have to make another sujood as-sahwi later. This is not your mistake. You weren't even present in the salah when that mistake happened. Okay? So these are certain certain things that you have to keep in mind. But of course, when you pray by yourself, any mistake you make, you have to, for the fard or the rukun, you repeat the rak'ah for a rukun, then do the sujood as-sahwi. If you miss one of the obligations, you would do the sujood as-sahwi. Now, sujood as-sahwi, there are two ways of doing it. That let's say you finish at the tahiyat, the second tashahhud. You can make your sujood as-sahwi, you say Allahu Akbar, make the first sajda, Allahu Akbar, get up, say Rabbik firli, same thing in between the two sajdas, go again, and then sit. You don't restart at tahiyat. Immediately you make taslim. Okay, this is what is proven in the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim, right? Or you make salam, you did your taslim, and then immediately you make the two sujood as-sahwi, and then you make taslim again immediately. So these are the two ways. You can do it before taslim or after taslim, but you would have to make another taslim, right? Now, if you look at a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, there's no direct command from the Prophet that you do sujood as-sahwi in this way or that way. But there are some hadith where we see from his own actions, if he added something in the salah, he would do it after the taslim. If he missed something out, he would do it before the taslim. So this is why many scholars, they said, seeing the actions of the Prophet ﷺ, if you forgot something in the salah and then you remembered, you do your sujood as-sahwi, then you make the taslim and end of the prayer. But if you added, let's say instead of praying 4 raka'at, you prayed 5 for Isha by mistake, and then you remembered, you added. So here, you make taslim and then immediately make sujood as-sahwi and then make taslim again because you added. So this is from the actions of the Prophet himself that the scholars, they deduce this understanding. But there's no direct hadith saying if you add, do it after. If you delete, you do it before. It's just from the Prophet's own actions, this is what he did. Alright, so inshallah ta'ala, any questions, raise your hand and the sisters can send the questions down. Yeah.
When you finish the salah, right? When you have to make the dua.
Yeah.
And if you were stuck on the one word, can you start over?
No, if you did not say it right, so of course the adhkar after salah, and whoever needs to learn, we have it hanging on the wall. The adhkar after the salah, you want to make sure you do them. These are from the sunnah acts and the rewarding acts, the rewarded acts. You don't want to miss anything out. Now let's suppose you're saying subhanallah, subhanallah 33 times as you're supposed to say. At one point you jumbled the word. So just repeat subhanallah properly, no problem.
You said that the Imaam says the first taslim, our salah is complete.
Yeah.
The Imam salah is complete, and if we join late, it's okay to stand up.
Yeah.
But we don't know at that point if the Imam is going to do sajda sahwi.
That's not on you. So if you pray, so this is a good question. That I had mentioned that the moment the Imam says the first salam, your salah is finished. If you came late, you can get up. Now, if you came late, it means you were not present in the mistake that the Imam made. Maybe he made the mistake in the first and second rak'ah. This is not on you. You weren't even present, so this is not a problem. If you stand up after the first salam, and then you notice they made sujood as-sahwi, this is on them. This is not a problem. Okay. But of course, if you were present, don't just get up. You have to make the sujood too. Yeah.
So I joined late in the third rak'ah.
Yeah.
And everybody's done. I stand up and finish my 4. But I make a mistake.
So you would do your own sujood as-sahwi for your mistake that you made after getting up. Okay. Yes, brother.
Yes. What is the recommended amount of water to use when you make wudu? I got 2 questions. And second, we know the sunnah is 3 times to make when you make the wudu, but is it acceptable to just do it 1 time if you're in a rush and you're late for salah?
Okay, so the question is about wudu. How many times do you have to do it, and how much water do you have to use? So this is extremely important. There is a specific shaitan assigned to every person to make him waste water for wudu. There's a specific shaitan, that's all his job is. Alright? just to come whisper and make you distracted, so every time you're making a wudu, it looks like you're making ghusl. Right? So the sunnah, like let's say this much water, even this much is more than enough. 3 people can probably make wudu if the sunnah wudu, or even more, right? It's not that you go take a shower every time in the sink. No. You take little water, as long as all the parts are wet. That is the proper wudu. You save the water, okay? Because Allah will ask you on Yawm al-Qiyamah for wasting water. And as I mentioned, a specific shaitan is assigned just to make you fall into this mistake of wasting water while making wudu. So, as minimum as possible, you use the water. You wet yourself, the parts, no problem, but use minimal water. The second question is, how many times do you make the wudu? Once, twice, 3 times. All are from the sunnah. Alright? So let's suppose you walked in and you see people are giving the iqamah. You want to get the reward. You want to catch with the salah. No need to rush, because that's forbidden too. Sometimes I've noticed that we say maybe somebody's crossing, then he sees, he starts running. Don't do that. This is forbidden. The Prophet ﷺ said, come to the salah with ease. Don't be panting for breath, running out of breath. Don't do this. It's okay if you're you see the people started, still walk normally. Don't run to the point that when you join the salah, you're out of breath, right? So, whatever the case, you can see that you can take ease. It's not really rushing and running around. You want to make your wudu one time each, all parts, no problem. Once, twice, thrice. All 3 are from the sunnah. Okay, it's not, because a lot of times people think you have to do it 3 times, that it's fard. No, it's not. Once, twice, 3 times. The Prophet ﷺ would switch around. So all are from the sunnah. Yeah.
Okay, speaking of wastewater.
Yeah.
For just salah, after Asr Zohar, when you turn on the water, freezing cold, nobody touch it. Let it water running. When you get it hot, tell me that part.
Okay, so this is maybe we have to change the heating system for the water, huh? The boiler.
So what is it?
No, if it's like that, let it drip for a little bit, not all the way full force. You see what I'm saying? But if the system is good, it shouldn't take that long. Maybe at Fajr time, especially when it's really cold outside. Freezing cold, yes. This is an exception. These are, Allah understands it. The weather is from Him. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Sometimes, brothers and sisters, if you're old, and many people don't know this, when it's extremely cold, if it hurts you to make wudu, you can make tayammum. Allah is the one who gave you this old age. Don't worry about it. A lot of times people don't understand these sunnahs. That Allah gave you, He's the one who made you weak, but He also made certain things easy for you. So if you're really old, and the cold water, it's really hurting your bones and this and that, no problem. It's a freezing day today. It's not every single day. Some days of the year are extremely freezing. We know this. We live in this part of the world. So you can make tayammum if you have some aches and pains of old age. No problem, right? And when you do tayammum, as the hadith in Bukhari mentions, you just do your hands and your face. This is tayammum. Just the hands and the face. Okay? So, but again, if you actually have the physical ailment. Let me read a couple of the sisters' questions. If your toddler shoves a cookie in your mouth while you are praying, does that break your salah? No, obviously you would not chew and eat in your salah. Just take it out. It doesn't break your salah because this was not done intentionally. Subhanallah, this reminds me what I just saw last night. Somebody shared on Facebook. I don't want to say which country, all right? The guy is smoking and praying. So he's holding his cigarette, he puts it in his mouth, then he's holding, and he's going down. It's a Muslim country. He's literally. So somebody did this on purpose. Like, look at this crazy man. So he recorded him one day, seeing him pray, because he was praying in the street, like in the back. He's like working in construction or something like that. So he's taking a break and praying, so he still has a cigarette in his hand. So this is not a problem. This is, your child did this, just pull the food out and just keep it to the side, no problem. Brothers or sisters who wear skin-tight clothes during Salah, is their Salah valid? So this would fall under the same category of not covering your aura in Salah. Because obviously when you're wearing skin-tight clothes, the entire shape of your body parts are seen, even the aura area. So no, the Salah is not valid with skin-tight clothing. Yes, brother. Yeah. Yeah. So Fajr, Maghrib and Isha. Even if you're praying by yourself, you recite out loud. This is from the Sunnah. Because these are the 3 loud prayers. What if when you're praying behind the Imam and you yourself make a mistake? Okay, Brother Rahil already asked this question, but to repeat. If you're praying behind the Imam, if it's from beginning to end, you don't make sujood as-sahw because you're following the Imam. He covers for you. Alright? So let's suppose, let's give an example. You came, you joined us in Isha, you started from the first rak'ah all the way to the 4th. In the 4th rak'ah, you forgot to say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim when you went to ruku'. Right? No problem. You're still following the Imam. His Salah suffices for you. This is not an issue. You have a question?
The way of the tayammum, how we have to do it, we think with that.
The earth, anything from the earth, rock, something like that, So you just rub, then just go like this, and then your face. That's it. So the earth that you have, your.
Even in the wall?
The wall is allowed too. Many scholars from our generation have said, because this is earth, this is bricks and stones and rocks. Okay?
No paint.
No
paint.
Yeah, that's what I was about to get. But the thing is, then the paint covers and this and that. But, it wouldn't be the strongest of views, but I know I've seen, like a long time ago when my grandmother was alive, they have a ball out of clay that they keep. It's actual earth clay ball that they keep, so if they need to make tayammum, they just rub it up. That's fine too, right? So that's the Sunni rock. We don't put it in a place of sajda like the Shia. Yeah, that's fine. So if you're outside, you want to rub the grass or the earth and then go like this, completely fine. Huh? No, the car is not earth. It has to be ard, from the earth. The car is metal and stuff. It's not the earth. You can't rub your car.
Just to be clear, you don't have to rub it.
Yeah, no. You just pat your hands. Yeah. A lot of people assumed everyone is from their native land, and I often have to tell them that I am not from where they are from. Why do people think that? Okay, so yeah, this is actually the very first time I met Zamin, many years ago. I asked him a question in Bengali, and he says no Bangla. I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? So then, oh no, he's from Burma. Oh, okay, all right.
You want me to answer that?
What?
What's wrong with this?
So then I understood he's from Burma. But of course, knowing one another is not a problem. Like to clarify what the sister asked. If you meet a Muslim, you want to get to know your brother or sister, and you give him salam, where are you from? This is fine. That Allah made us into different shu'uba wa qaba'il, lita'arafu, right? How will you get to know each other if you don't ask, where are you from, where did you come from? So even the Sahaba used to do that. If someone came from Iraq or this or that, they knew that this person came from Iraq, this, that. So that, for the sake of information, is completely fine. But what many people do is, okay, let me ask so I can know if he's really from my tribe or country, so I'll look at him in a different way. That's haram. Alright? For the sake of information, getting to know your brother, getting to know your sister, you ask them where they're from, no problem. But if you want to use it for any type of kibir type of feeling, or to think that so-and-so is different, that's the haram. So that is niyyah. Only Allah knows what you're thinking. So you have to be very cautious in doing that. Those who now heard and know how the salah should be performed will now be accountable for everything, or it's not okay. So of course, anytime in any aspect of Islam, when the hujjah, the evidence comes to you, now it becomes an obligation upon you to follow the evidence. If you didn't know, this is different. But once Allah gives you the knowledge, now it's fard on you to start changing. Sure, you're not going to change overnight, but review. You have to sincerely work to change. If you say, I don't care what's going on, I'm just going to stick to what I've been doing for 30 years, then it becomes haram. You're committing a major sin. You're rejecting dalil when it came to you. So this is important that you want to. Yeah.
Is the last tashahhud fard or sunnah?
No, it's a rukun. Yeah, the final tashahhud. The first tashahhud is fard. The first tashahhud is fard. The second tashahhud is a rukun. Can you explain what should be done if a person joins the jama'ah late? For example, if they join after the first or second rak'ah, what and how should the prayer be completed? So anytime you join the salah, that is your first rak'ah. So the jama'ah is on their second or third or fourth, it doesn't matter. It's your own first, now you continue in remembering that. Okay? Now of course, you may have more tashahuds because you're following the imam, you're in jama'ah, no problem. But you still have to remember, like let's suppose you came in the third rak'ah of Maghrib. This is your first rak'ah. You're doing a tashahhud with the imam. Then he gives salam, you get up. It's your second rak'ah, you have to sit for tashahhud. And then in your third rak'ah, so basically all three rak'ah, you're sitting for a tashahhud. No problem. Because it's your own first, second, and third. Okay, so this is how you would go.
The addition, if someone come at third rakat, and because of his first rakat, he is doing Imam. The second rakat, Imam will finish his second rakat. What he should do, he will recite Surah Fatiha and other Surah too.
Yeah, if he has the time, if the Imam gave him the time, he will do it. Otherwise, just Fatiha is fine, no problem. If he doesn't have the time. Yeah.
A lot of brothers tell me, Imam is reading Surah Fatiha. They read with him.
This is wrong.
Yeah.
You read after the Imam. Let's say the Imam says, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Yes.
From the Sunnah, when you're reciting the Fatiha, as the Hadith in Bukhari says, you pause after every ayah in the Salah. Okay? When you're reading the Quran, if you want to join different ayat and read along, no problem. But in Salah, you pause after every ayah. This is from the Sunnah of the Qira'ah in Salah. Alright? So the Imam says, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. He pauses. That's when you say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Okay? Then he goes to Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, he pauses. That's when you say Ar-Rahman. Don't say it with the Imam. That's not right to do. And the Prophet ﷺ forbade the people to do it.
But most of the Imam,
You whisper to you just move your tongue. Yeah.
does not give the chance to repeat.
Yeah, that's something wrong by the Imams. That he has to follow this sunnah, that he pauses after every ayah. Now let's suppose that's one way. The other way is he says Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, he finishes the whole Surah Fatiha, says Ameen, then he pauses for a few seconds, 30, 40 seconds, and then he starts his second recitation. That's when the Ma'mun can also say Fatiha. So you have two options, right?
It's not mandatory to recite.
No, the Fatiha you do. Because this is the hadith in Bukhari. Anas said, I prayed behind the Prophet ﷺ. I prayed behind Abu Bakr. I prayed behind Umar. I prayed behind Uthman. And I used to say the Fatiha behind them. Alright? And we did not say the Bismillah out loud. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim for Fatiha. Now if the Imam does not give you a chance, you tried, this is not on you. Okay, so Allah sees that. But if you have the chance, you still didn't do it, now you're making a mistake. Yeah.
At what point in the rak'ah, when you join the jama'ah, does it get counted as a full rak'ah for you?
Okay, so this is another good question. If you have caught the ruku', then you have caught the rak'ah. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said. Now, what does it mean you have caught the ruku'? You clearly see, you walked in, you take off your shoes, you're joining here. If you could, again, you have to say, I want to mention this because I didn't see a question yet. Anytime you come late for the salah, you have to say your takbiratul ihram. Otherwise your whole salah is invalid. Okay? So you stand, you say your first Allahu Akbar. If they're in ruku', whatever it is, you say Allahu Akbar, then you quickly go to ruku'. If they're in sujood, you quickly go to sujood. If they're sitting, you quickly go. But you have to make your first takbiratul ihram. Then you join the salah. Okay? Now let's suppose you did your takbiratul ihram, you said Allahu Akbar. By the time you went to ruku', the Imam already said Sami Allah. You did not catch the rak'ah. If you went to ruku', you could not rest. Your body did not come to a complete rest. The Imam, you did not catch the rak'ah. So the Prophet ﷺ said that you were able to make the ruku'. You rested properly. You came to a complete stop. Then you have caught the ruku'. Even if you did not say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim 3 times, but you still caught the rak'ah because you were able to come to a complete stop. Your body came to a complete stop. So then you have caught the rak'ah if you catch the ruku'. Okay?
Is there a second
If
opinion?
not, sometimes Sheikh, the Imam is in ruku'.
Yeah.
If you start the ruku' and the person came and joined the salah, he say Allahu Akbar and he go share within ruku' and he not recite the Surah Fatiha.
Yeah.
Is it valid rak'ah or not?
No, this is valid. Okay? So this is why,
Without Surah Fatiha?
yeah, this is why there's the ikhtilaf with the ulama, because you have the hadith clearly. The Prophet ﷺ said, if you caught the ruku', you have caught the rak'ah. Okay? So this is why some of the imams, that's why I told you this. You say the Fatiha if the Imam gives you the chance. If he did not give you the chance, it's not a sin upon you. Your prayer is still valid, your rak'ah is accepted. Alright? But if you're praying by yourself, of course, you cannot leave the Fatiha because it's a rukun of the salah. Alright?
Okay.
So this issue, there's some ikhtilaf, but majority of the opinion is, if you caught the ruku', you have caught the rak'ah. But the ruku', as I mentioned, you have clearly paused, stopped before the Imam said, Sami Allahu liman hamidah.
Okay, Imam, if we don't get it caught, right? Not for some reason fast or whatever it is. The Imam started different ayah. After Fatiha finished, the ayah start. We can read in Surah Fatiha.
Yeah, this is you can, because it's the Fatiha.
Yeah.
All right, so just do the Fatiha quietly, no
yeah.
problem. But then you keep quiet and listen. Yeah.
If I come in here and I see the jama'ah going into the ruku', I do my takbiratul ihram.
The Jama'ah went to a coup. Oh, ruku! I heard a coup. I'm like, what riots started in Salaah? Yeah.
Do I say Allahu Akbar a second time before going into the ruku'?
No, you don't have to. The main thing is takbiratul ihram. All right. If you want to, no problem, but you don't have to.
Can I go back to wudu for a moment?
Yeah, go ahead.
If I'm cleaning my mouth, and especially if my nostrils, and 3 times is insufficient.
It's not sufficient.
Yeah, I still need more cleaning.
Then you have probably not done those 3 times properly.
But in my view, if I've done them properly, but I still need more.
No, if there is, let's say, extra snots or whatever it is, of course you clean it up. That's not an issue. That's not a problem.
Do that before I start the wudu, so I can keep it clean.
You can. That's fine.
Either way.
Yeah. If someone thinks that they prayed or their prayer is better the way it is than the Prophet in general, is this considered a sin? Yes, of course, this is a huge sin. If someone thinks that I don't have to learn all these ahadith and pray according to the ahadith, I'm fine, I'm praying a good prayer the way I am, this is a major sin to think this way. Okay, so this is not allowed. This would fall under clearly running away from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ running away from his way of doing things. Before getting up for the second and the fourth rak'ah, do you have to sit for a bit and then get up? Yes, that's what I showed. Anytime you're getting up from the sajda, before you get up, you come to a complete rest. So you got up from your second sajda, you come to a complete rest, which takes a few seconds. Then you go and support yourself with the closed fist and get up. Okay?
We have a question here.
Where? Oh.
Do you do the Salaah with close their eyes?
Yeah, this is not appropriate to do. Your salah is valid, but you're still missing out on reward. During the salah, your eyes have to stay open, looking at the place of sajda, and of course when you're making at-tahiyat, the tashahhud, you look at your finger.
What exactly is tashahhud? Ashhadu la ilaha illallah, just that?
No, at-tahiyatu lillahi wa salam.
Separately? Because there's a lot of confusion on that.
That's the dua. Okay, so in the first tashahhud, you say at-tahiyatu lillahi wa salam until the end. Then you can say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Then you get up for your third.
So all of it is called tashahhud?
Yeah.
Not just that part where it is ashhadu la
No.
ilaha illallah.
If you don't have, let's suppose you finished only at-tahiyatu lillahi wa salam, and then the Imam got up. Still no problem. You get up, no problem. If you have the time, you add Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad, finish it. Alright? But any other dua is for the final tashahhud. Okay, so we have okay, this is a good question. All right, let me. So a brother on our Facebook stream asked that, with all due respect to those who pray the Hanafi according to the Hanafi madhab, the vast majority of the ummah for 1400 years, where are we praying it wrong? Didn't Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah actually see the Sahaba and pray with the Sahaba and the Tabi'un? So all those Sahaba and the Tabi'un learned the wrong way from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is a good question, but of course there are some wrong informations in the question. Now here, whose phone was it? Oh, here. So, but this is a good question. Now, of course, let's suppose first of all we have to remember one thing. Imam Abu Hanifa never wrote a book. He never wrote a book because he was afraid that something he wrote, it's a mistake, it's going to stay till the day of judgment. That was just from his own taqwa. He never physically by himself wrote any book. The books that are found in the Hanafi madahib are from later people, starting with his own students, like let's say the two most famous students of Abu Hanifa is Muhammad al-Shaybani and Abu Yusuf. They started recording from the fatwa of Abu Hanifa, all right, rahimahullah. Then as days went by, more and more people from the Hanafi madhab, they wrote more books. But Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah himself never wrote a single book, all right? Now, let's say from his own students, Abu Yusuf, Muhammad al-Shaybani, they learned from Imam Malik as well. And when they learned from Imam Malik, they disagreed with a third of what they had already learned from Abu Hanifa. Because this again, every scholar has their specialty. Every scholar has their specialty. Abu Hanifa rahimahullah wasn't a hadith scholar. He was a faqih. But he himself, this is his own statements, not from someone else, right? And this doesn't mean that he is any lesser than what he was. No, his level we all know, all right? He is from Ahlus Sunnah. He is a person of the Sahih Aqidah. He is one of the greatest scholars of Islam. We don't take anything away from him. Like let's say from our generation, even in our generation, we had Sheikh bin Baz, Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, Sheikh Albani. Everyone knows Albani's level of knowledge in hadith excelled the other two. He was the muhaddith of the era. That's his specialty. Everybody knows this, right? So this is something that the scholars never had any shame in saying. That alim is better than me in this field. So go for him. This is why Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he made a statement that فإذا صح الحديث إذا صح الحديث فهو مذهبي. Whenever you find a sahih hadith, because I don't know all the authentic hadith, right? That is my madhab. Don't follow my statement if you see it contradicting a sahih hadith. Because you also have to understand the context of their time. They didn't have Sahih al-Bukhari in a book form or Muslim or this or that. Things were being compiled. And Abu Hanifa rahimahullah was extremely strict in what he used to hear and collect. Why? Because he was in Iraq and it was a predominantly Shia environment. He was extremely strict. So even if sometimes a hadith were sahih, he was afraid that this could be something from the Shia. This is written in his biography. He was extremely strict against the Shia, right? So he lived in Iraq. This was his situation. So there's many hadith that he himself said, I did not hear. Or even if I did, I had doubts if this is authentic or not because of the environment that I'm from, right? So this is not an issue. So it doesn't mean that Abu Hanifa was mistaken, or this or that, or everybody prayed wrong. No. There are even Sahaba, and these are hadith in Bukhari. Like when Hisham was reciting Surah Furqan with one mode of recitation, Umar radiallahu anhu grabbed him by the neck. Why are you reciting this way? I have never heard this. Then they both went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he told Umar, you recite the way you know. Hisham, you also recite the way you know. Both of them were correct. And then he explained that Jibril taught me the Quran in 7 different ways, the 7 qira'at. So even among the Sahaba, one Sahaba did not know everything, right? So this is the thing that we have to remember, that Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, just like any other human being, had limitations. One scholar does not know everything, right? So this is the balanced approach, and this is the correct approach to every scholar. Imam Malik, the Muwatta that he wrote it over 40 years. There are certain fatwa of Imam Malik, maybe in chapter 3 he said something, in chapter 65 it's the exact opposite because he found a different hadith. He changed his opinion, but he kept his original opinion so that people can learn from his mistake, right? Imam Ahmed many times has 2 opinions. One is an opinion, then later he corrected himself after he found an authentic hadith. Imam Shafi, same way, right? So all the Imams had this approach. We don't criticize them and say, oh, he was dumb, he didn't know. No, we have no right to speak this way about the ulama, okay? But the point is that you learn, the information came to you, you make that attempt to change. And finally, one more statement. Abu Hanifa rahimahullah said that it is haram for anyone to blindly follow my fatwa without knowing how I reached that decision. Why? So that maybe while you're researching, you actually find I made a mistake and you find a better hadith. These were the statements of the ulama. But the people later then just, became lazy or whatever may be the case. And final point I'm going to mention with this question. If you read history, the Ottoman Empire, the Turkish Empire, the last Khilafah, they were strict followers of Hanafi madhab. And if you read their history, they actually forced the ummah. You have to follow just this madhab, otherwise you'll be physically punished. Just read their history. It's not that many people a lot of people think this, hey, the followers of the Hanafi madhab are the highest in number, so this must be the authentic madhab. This is no way to think, right? The authentic madhab is the madhab of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the only correct one, right? Everybody else will make mistakes. Doesn't matter the level of his scholarship. So there are many historical facts that people don't know, right? Like when Imam Malik was beaten by the Khalifa, he wanted the Muwatta to be the Sharia of the time at that time. Imam Malik said, no, you can't just take my one book and make that the law of all the Muslim land. This is not allowed, right? So, but of course, if Abu Hanifa was alive and saw the Ottoman Empire do this, he would also react in the same way. But don't do this. But anyways, inshallah ta'ala, this is a much broader discussion, but hopefully with this much it's clear. Let's see. Last three questions and then we'll end. In the beginning of Sheikh Albani's Sifatul Salah book, so if you actually, the book that Sheikh Albani wrote, the Prophet's prayer described from Takbiratul Ihram ila Taslim, it's available even in Urdu and Bengali. I know that for sure. It's been translated. So if you search, it's in the beginning, first few chapters, he brought all the statements of the Imams, that this is what they said, with their evidence, where it's recorded, this, that there should not be any distinction, right? We have to follow hadith and this and that, right? So, like for example, this is something that, going back to Abu Hanifa's example, rahimahullah, and his students recorded this. Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, he made it clear all the time, straighten the lines, close the gaps, straighten the lines, close the gaps. Majority of the people who say they follow Hanafi madhab, when you get close to them, they want to run away as if your foot has a disease, right? Contagious disease. But this clearly contradicts the Imam's own fatwa, because people don't research and read, right? So that's, inshallah ta'ala, will take care of the situation. Okay. Can you explain specifically how to do the sujood al-sahu? I think, okay, I'll repeat it. So sujood al-sahu, you have two options. Either you do it before the taslim or you after the taslim. So let's say in the final tashahhud, I finish everything from at-tahiyyat and some other du'as, and then I say Allahu Akbar, go to sajda, the two sajdas. And then right away I say the taslim. You don't start repeating at-tahiyyat again. All right? That's option one. Option two, you finish all your adhkar, you make taslim, immediately you go for the two sajda, and then immediately you give taslim. Alright, so these are the two ways of doing it. Right, last question, and then we eat dinner, inshallah.
You do a one-time tasneem.
Yeah.
After sujood, you don't need to make another tasneem.
No. Because these are clear hadith from the Prophet ﷺ's own action, like in Bukhari and Muslim, right? When for Dhuhr or Asr once he prayed extra, or Asr once he prayed 3 rak'at, made taslim, he got up and even reclined. And then one of the Sahaba, because they were afraid to correct the Prophet, so he literally got up, even reclined on the wall, and he's making his adhkar. Then he said, Ya Rasulullah, did Allah change the ruling of Asr? He said, what do you mean? You prayed 3. Then he got up, prayed 1 rak'ah, and made sujood al-sahu. Right? He made the 2 taslim, then he made sujood al-sahu, and then taslim again. This is the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. So, yeah.
I think the confusion is that to end the salah, all you require is 1 taslim.
In the salah?
But to finish the salah, you require just
1 taslim.
And you don't need the second.
Yeah, but sujood al-sahu, all the hadith mentioned that after the 2 salams. Yeah. In the near future, if the sisters need to talk while the lecture is going on, they should exchange numbers. Okay, that's very important. Exchange numbers and talk. Or maybe it's the husband's fault. They don't let their women meet with each other. They come to the masjid to meet. All right, inshallah. So with this we'll end. Any other question? I can't see. Okay, turn off. All right,